Welcome back to the Blockument. Crypto education through everyday conversation. My name is Nate Talbot. I'm the executive director of Detroit Blockchain Center. And to my right is the long-missed
Ashlee Rose.
as she's taking stage directions.
Yes.
Ashlee Rose, go for it.
I am an everyday mother. I'm an online reseller, and I'm on a journey to figure out what the heck is going on with all of this crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, pick your coin stuff.
Pick your coin. This is 2024, so it's got to be about the meme coins. That's all anybody cares about now. Who cares about future of finance when you can meme coin it?
Yeah, well, everyone's just trying to make a buck, you know?
That's right. Here's our Citadel. We were talking right before we went on about a Citadel.
Oh, that's perfect.
One of us found. There's our Citadel.
Yeah. Don't beat us to it, though, okay?
Right. All right. So, how goes it?
Oh, it goes. I've got lots of questions for us today. And I've also got our mempool pulled up here.
Oh, the mempool time.
Yep.
Time's ticking to a special date. Mm-hmm. But go ahead. What's our mempool? Our
mempool is number 838,147. Mm-hmm. The block size is 2.23 megabytes. That is comprised of 2,755 transactions. The total subsidies and fees for that one were 6.318 Bitcoin, which equates to 438,279 US dollars. Mm-hmm. The winners of that beautiful sum of money were Spider Pool.
I think you're a couple blocks back. I
am?
I think so.
I don't think so.
Let's do a refresh. Yep.
I was?
Yep. We've lied to you, dear viewer.
I'll do it again. Here we go. No. For real?
Yep, we're now 2 blocks in because difficulty is going quick. Time for a readjustment.
Which number are we on now?
838,147.
And I wonder, which one did I read?
Well, Spider Pool was 838,145.
14. That's so weird. Because I was literally looking at...
Well, this is some of the lessons we can learn from Bitcoin and what it means to have 10-minute blocks on average versus fixed. Because when you pulled it up, we had 2 blocks within 1 minute span.
I think I know what happened. I think I did not tap on... Because I read off the 2.23 megabytes with 2,755 transactions.
Okay. So what's our stats for Ant Pool then?
So our stats for that are the subsidies and fees are 6.357 Bitcoin, which is 440,915 US dollars, and the winners are Ant Pool.
All right. Yeah. All right.
It was still fun to say Spider Pool because I've never heard them before.
Yeah, they're going to get
just, another day in the life.
Spider Pool a shout out for not often catching blocks. So shout out to them and to prove that this is live.
Yes.
No editing.
Yeah.
We go straight to tape. Okay, we'll do it live. Yep. We'll do it live.
Yep.
All right. What's been going on? What are we chit-chatting about?
Today is what are UTXOs?
What are UTXOs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we kind of touched on it on another episode, but then I was kind of oh, it's kind of interesting. And also I've never heard that before. So maybe we could look into it a little bit more.
Okay. Let's deep dive. What do you know about UTXOs? So I don't under-explain, over-explain.
Yeah.
Where are you at?
So the only thing that I really know is that they are unspent, that's the U. Mm-hmm. Transaction, that's the TX. Mm-hmm. Unspent transaction outputs.
That's right.
Okay. Now, kind of beyond that, I kind of did not retain too much more. I think it's I think it's kind of like maybe similar to debt, maybe. Like,
did you say debt?
Yeah. No, is it wrong?
No, not debt.
Credit. Is it credit?
No.
Something like you have this, like this is how much spending power you have potentially that you could spend. Wouldn't that be credit? Like if you have a credit card for like $5,000, like you could put gift cards. Was it gift cards? It's starting to come back to me.
Yeah, I could see an argument. No, not even a gift card. No.
Okay, awesome. Well, this has been fun.
It's been fun. Thanks for playing. You will not owe taxes on today's show because you didn't win.
Yeah, perfect. Anyways, over to you.
So, let's take them back a couple steps. When you when a new block is mined, right? And this is one of the things you just read off.
One of the
Coinbase. Right. You announce what the Coinbase plus fees are, right?
Yes.
What is Coinbase besides a company?
Coinbase is the amount that you get paid for winning the block.
It's the subsidy. Right.
Okay.
The Coinbase, the company, is named after Coinbase, the reward, which is the subsidy, the 6.25 Bitcoin right now, the big halving event. That's what we're talking about, the Coinbase. Goes from 6.25 to 3.125, right? That is a special transaction, not just because it's a subsidy, but no Bitcoin can move, right? And this is if you have a UTXO model chain, so it's not Bitcoin specific, Litecoin, even Cardano, these are all UTXO based chains, right?
Oh God, you're throwing things at me. So chains can not have UTXOs?
Well, there's only two ways you can do it.
Okay.
You have UTXO model, which was the original model.
Okay.
Born from Bitcoin.
Okay.
And then you have an account model. This is what like an Ethereum uses, almost any proof of stake chain uses.
Okay.
Anybody who wants to do smart contracts really uses an account-based model because it's easier to do the smart contracts. Smart contracts are really, really hard to do with UTXOs, and once you understand what a UTXO is, you'll get why.
Okay.
And then you can go ask Cardano, who's been working on trying to get a smart contract working on a UTXO set for, 30 years now.
Okay.
Feels like. So, the UTXO set, with the concept is, and what many people misunderstand about UTXO chains are, you don't have an account, right? People will be like, oh, my Bitcoin account. Well, you don't have an account because there aren't accounts.
Okay.
Bitcoin is a ledger, but it's not a ledger of, Alice has this much Bitcoin, Bob has this much Bitcoin, Alice sends this much Bitcoin to Bob. So now Bob has X amount of Bitcoin and Alice has less. That would be an account-based model, right? Where it's just adding and deducing your balance.
Yeah.
It's not how Bitcoin works. How Bitcoin works is when a new block is formed, you have a Coinbase. That Coinbase mints brand new Bitcoin, brand new Satoshis.
Okay.
Right? So right now, 6.25 Bitcoin were mined in that block from Antpool. Right? They're special because they don't have an input, they only have an output. They were just generated out of thin air. They didn't come from anywhere, that's why they don't have an input. Think of like this used to be easy, like in the 90s to explain because people understood VCRs. Think about input, output. Think about like if you plug your headphones into a stereo or I know we don't plug things into stuff anymore. Yeah. But it's still a new enough concept, old enough, right? Yeah. If you're going to plug some headphones into a computer, right? Yeah. The sound is going out of the computer into your ear, right? Out is the output, in is the input, right? And so think of that's what we're talking about when we say unspent transaction outputs. A transaction, if I'm going to send you money, right, it's going to go out of my wallet, so it's an output for me, into your wallet, so it's going to be an input for you.
Okay.
Right? So when I say a Coinbase doesn't have any inputs, nobody sent the Bitcoin
it just was created
into the Coinbase. It was just created.
Okay.
But when the miner decides they want to move the Bitcoin, they will output it to a new address.
Which would
And then that
create...
address would have an input for the Bitcoin.
Okay.
And this is when you hear about people saying you can trace all the Bitcoin. That's what they're doing. They're just following the outputs and the inputs all the way back to the Coinbase. So you can tell where any Bitcoin came from address-wise just by following the outputs and inputs
it's
going
like
backwards.
Output, input.
Yep.
And then just keep going down the chain.
Going back. It came from this one. It came from this one.
Okay.
This is how you audit Bitcoin. Okay? So that's part of what a UTXO is. That's the fundamental thing.
Okay.
A key thing to remember with UTXOs is not like gift cards or credit cards. The best way to think about it really is it's really cash. Well, I think a lot of people think about that, or they think of it like a stock.
Yeah. Okay, so...
And even a stock is closer to than a credit card thing. Think of it even like a stock, even though you shouldn't. But we're going to stick with the cash analogy, right? If I have a $20 bill and you charge me $10 for something, I can't rip the $20 bill in half and give it to you and say, now you have $10. Correct?
Correct, yes.
All right. If I have a UTXO, a single UTXO that's worth 1 Bitcoin, and I want to send you 0.5 Bitcoin, I cannot rip the UTXO in half and hand it to you. And
you gotta find some change somewhere.
Right, as I've said before, Satoshi, there are no such thing as Satoshis. And go check out that episode about UTXOs and do Satoshis exist? Right? This is why they don't exist. Right? And that's where we get into the episode. So check that out. But inside of that UTXO, that it's valued at 1 Bitcoin. If I want to spend half of that, traditionally, if it was if it was physical cash, and I had $100 bill, I would basically take the $100 bill, put it into a cash register, pull out 2 50s.
Right, or some form of
You
change.
would get 150, I would get another 50. Right?
Right.
Well, that's what a UTXO does. If I spend a half a Bitcoin, it's going to, out of a 1 Bitcoin UTXO, that UTXO outputs the entire 1 Bitcoin to 2 different addresses.
Okay.
One address will be yours, and it'll send you 0.5 Bitcoin.
Okay.
The other address will be mine. It'll come back to me in a different address, sending me back the change. That original UTXO gets evaporated.
And now turns into 2.
And now there's 2 UTXOs. And so can you pull up the screen one more time for us?
Yeah. Okay.
So I can show you this and our beloved mempool.space. So we'll come here, we'll look at some transactions. We're just going to grab a random address from the last block.
So unless you're sending the full UTXO, there will always be an additional UTXO created.
Correct.
Because you need to have the change sent back to you.
So when you look at mempool.space, and you start looking, you can pop your own address in here to see it. You're going to see this. You're going to see this chart.
Yeah, what am I looking at?
You are looking at the UTXOs. So just like if I had 1 Bitcoin and wanted to send you half, if I only had a bunch of, just like if I owed you $10, but all I had a bunch of ones, I would have to take a bunch of ones or quarters, right?
Yeah.
Consolidate them, all from these different, each quarter, let's say, is its own UTXO.
Yeah.
And I have to spend all of those, put them into a single $10 bill, and then hand you that. So when we look here on the screen, this is what's happening.
So this is nicer than cash in that way, because you only get like, let's say, the $10 bill as opposed to all of the quarters. Correct.
It's nicer because think about a regular cash transaction. You give them the dollars, they put it in a register. The cashier is the middleman, right? They have to take this, put it in for the owner.
Yeah.
And then hand you back your change.
The correct change.
And make sure it's the correct change. They're basically auditing the transaction.
Right.
And you got to trust the cashier.
Yeah.
Or you have to verify by counting your change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Bitcoin gets rid of the middleman, right?
Right.
So think of this: every time you do a transaction, you're getting rid of the cashier. I'm sending the money to the source. Bitcoin's handling all the change and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, Bitcoin in your wallet are doing it. And that's what we're looking at here. So each one of these arrows pointing in are inputs. See how it names them? Input 1, input 2. So this person was trying to spend 0.04 Bitcoin. Right?
Okay.
They didn't have, wherever they're getting money, we're going to assume this is one person sending multiple Bitcoin to themselves. Okay?
Like
just
they're trying to consolidate. They're trying to take 4 quarters and make it $1.
Right.
Okay.
So when they tried to spend it, they tried to create the 0.04 Bitcoin, 0.048, blah, blah, blah. They didn't have any UTXOs with that amount of Bitcoin. So what their wallet did was it went and found a bunch of smaller UTXOs until it reached a number equal to or greater than the amount they wanted to send. Then it sends them all. So for this transaction, it's the input. These are the outputs of the old addresses.
Right.
All of these would be unique addresses. They're going to output and become the input of this new UTXO. This is the new UTXO.
Right.
So it took all of those. It sent a fraction of that off as the fee. And there's no change left, so the entire transaction goes into this new UTXO. So all of these inputs equaled exactly how much this person wanted to spend. No change needed, which is why I think they sent it to themselves. Because there's no change, or they had an exact amount of UTXOs.
Right.
No different than if you had a bunch of $5 bills, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You spent $30 in. You paid.
It could have been like, I have this much. Can we take it for that?
Yeah. Tips, people who work for tips. So like waitresses, if you're a dancer, jiggle, jiggle, right? You're getting all these ones, these lower, you consolidate all the time.
Yeah.
You just don't realize you're consolidating because it's embedded into our society. Like you take these smaller units, put it in a bank, or you go hand it. It's like when you have a piggy bank and you go hand in all your change so you can just get the bill.
Yeah.
I've collected $20 worth of pennies and quarters. Now I get the $20 bill.
Yeah.
Those are UTXOs.
Like
you consolidated them into a UTXO. Right. And that's what a UTXO is. And that's what you pay the fee. And this is where fees come in, right?
Yeah.
Because the fee isn't based on how much you're spending. You could I could send you a $10 transaction, and then I can send you a $1 billion transaction.
Okay.
I could pay less in fees for the $1 billion transaction than I did for the $10 transaction, because you're paying for data, not value, right?
Okay.
And so
And it's less?
I have Bitcoin for every input it sees, you're going to pay a fee. That's what the fee is, sort of like how big is this data you're sending.
Okay.
And so if this is a $10 transaction, I'm paying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fees. Right? Versus if it all came from one, if there was just one of these arrows pointing in, I would only be paying one fee.
I see. So in like your scenario where you're saying, like, oh, if I send you $1 billion, it could be less. If it was just one transaction of $1 billion, then it would be less than if it was 10 transactions for $10.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And that's it.
Very interesting. And now you said the other one is the account model. Do we want to see the difference there, or is that like another day?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's a visualization tool for it. I don't know of a visualization, but it's easier to understand. This is more like your traditional bank account, all right? There is no, so let me say this about UTXOs. UTXOs, like I said earlier, you don't really have an account. It's not like you have a bunch of Bitcoin. People look at their wallet, and it's designed, not by Bitcoin, but by whoever designs the wallet. It's designed to look like a sort of an account. People just send you Bitcoin, and it looks like you have now 1 Bitcoin because you've had all these people send it to you, and your wallet tells you got 1 Bitcoin.
Okay.
But it's really a piggy bank.
Yeah.
And it's just giving you a total of how many little individual UTXOs you have, right? And so when you send it, what you're really doing is when you have to sign the transaction, you're signing off the UTXO. Part of the data in it is who, when you're doing the input to output, when it's coming in, it's getting assigned that new UTXO is getting assigned a new private key, which is yours because I sent you the money.
Right.
Now you're signing it, and that's telling that UTXO only your private key is allowed to output that money.
Yeah.
Right? So it came from me. It used to be my private key. It evaporated that.
You handed it over.
And now it's your private key.
Okay.
So you don't have an account. You don't have like this box full of UTXOs that you sign off on the overall account. Every single transaction in that account, every single UTXO you would need to sign. So when we looked at that big model that had like 6 inputs coming in, those were 6 signatures you had to give.
So when you see like, let's say you open it up, Coinbase, for example, and it says you've got $100 in Bitcoin. What you're seeing is not that you actually have $100 in Bitcoin, is that you have the potential to spend $100 in Bitcoin.
Good segue. No, because you're looking at Coinbase. You don't have any Bitcoin. They have it all.
Okay.
Right? But it's a good segue. It is a good segue, right? So if you had custody of it, then yes, that's what it would be telling you.
Okay.
Right? If you took all your UTXOs and added them together, this is how much you would have. Some wallets, like I think a Sparrow wallet for Bitcoin, that lets you really manage your UTXOs. Most wallets abstract all this away. Some wallets you can go in and actually look at how many individual UTXOs you have.
And Sparrow wallet is one of those?
Yes.
Okay.
When you look at Coinbase or an exchange account, when you keep your money on an exchange, or if it's on Strike or Cash App or whatever, wherever you're keeping it, that's an account because you don't have any of the Bitcoin. You don't need a signature to send it, right? You don't.
Right. You can just push a button and it goes.
Just push a button and it goes. If you're actually sending the Bitcoin outside of the exchange, then they have to sign off on it to send it wherever you're going. Maybe you're taking it out the exchange and putting it into your own wallet. Coinbase will sign the transaction. They have to deal with all that. And then they send it to yours. And what you would see is similar to the last image I showed you.
Yeah.
Can you put this up one more time and see if I can find a
flow.
Yes. Let's go back to the
Looks
home.
like a flow to me.
Yep, the flow charts.
Is that what it's called?
No.
Oh, well, it is now.
So basically what you would do is, and when you're looking at a block explorer, I know you've been dying to do one of these episodes.
Yeah.
I'm showing you the chart, but that chart was just a visual representation of this. Here's all the inputs to one output, right? Now, when you see one here, and then you'll see a bunch of them listed over here, like this, this is likely an exchange. Not for $18 though.
So like a Coinbase or like.
Yeah, it's stereotypical. It doesn't guarantee it.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is you got one input.
But that's what they're doing.
And it's sent it to all these different addresses.
Okay, and then they're paying fees on that there.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, they'll pay fees, but they're going to charge you for the fees, and then they're going to tax that fee on top of that. So you're really paying for this. Very few wallets will send Bitcoin and not charge you the fee, or any crypto, and not charge you the fee. But what's happening is when you want to cash out, and this is why sometimes it takes 5-10 minutes when you try to withdraw from an exchange and for it to hit your wallet. It's not really the block. It could be the block time, but usually before it even hits the block, what they're doing is they're waiting for a batch of people to send money out, and then they'll batch it because it's cheaper for them. And then they'll send the output out, and they'll send it to all these individual, because they're not paying fees on this. They're paying fees on the, I'm pointing like you guys can see my finger. They're not paying fees on these over here. They're paying fees on this.
Right. Okay, so it's like a ferry. Like a ferry would rather have a full boat than one person on the boat each time running back and forth. Okay.
Exactly. So that's how an exchange would work. But they're managing this through an account, right? This is what they do when they actually send it. But when you're on an exchange, they're using an account model, because if you're sending it from one Coinbase address to another, or you're swapping Bitcoin for Ethereum or something, they're not going to really do a swap. they're not going to pay on-chain fees to do a swap because they're only giving you promises at that point.
Yeah.
They're supposed to have enough to do all this, but basically all they're doing is they're going to take their spreadsheet, just like your bank does, and say, all right, Ashlee doesn't want this much Bitcoin anymore. She wants this much Ethereum.
But they still charge you a fee like they are doing it.
Well, of course, they're going to charge you a fee on everything. It's the banks.
Oh, you signed in? Fee.
Right. Yeah. Sign-in fees. Sign-out fees.
Yeah.
Sign-up fees.
Clicking around fees.
Ask too many damn questions fees. They that's how that works. Now, take that concept, so you understand how Coinbase would work. It's just like your bank.
Yeah.
So now you go to a smart contract platform. One of the first challenges is we have these UTXO sets, which are when you're talking about architecture of a blockchain, UTXOs are a better tool set. But it's really, really hard when you want to do account model things like smart contracts. When you're doing a smart contract, that smart contract has to live someplace. It's really hard to make a smart contract live in a UTXO because those UTXOs vaporize, new ones get created. How do you keep recalling on a UTXO? So it's very difficult. This is a challenge. This is why Bitcoin doesn't have smart contract. One of the reasons.
I don't think I kind of get what you're saying, but I don't fully get it at the same time.
The main thing you have to think of is, let's go to Ethereum. What Ethereum does, instead of dealing with the UTXOs, when you create a wallet, right, on Ethereum, same startup, similar cryptography methods, right? But the difference here is there's an account created. That address will always stay static. With Bitcoin, the addresses can change. One private key can control multiple addresses. Same with Ethereum, but those addresses are designed to always change. You're never supposed to use the same address twice with Bitcoin.
I see.
With Ethereum, you're doing a smart contract. There's programmability, right? So if you're doing a loan, you can't do a loan because the loan doesn't know you. You're not KYCing with it, right? All it knows is its address. If you keep changing the address, it doesn't know who you are anymore.
Right.
So you have to have some staticity.
Right. It'd be like if you and I made a contract together, but like you're always moving around.
But I got 50 different names. How do you know it's me?
Right. And it's like, how do I reach this guy I'm supposed to have a contract with? Yeah. He's a ghost in the wind.
Yep. That's exactly right. So instead of that, they use an account-based model. And then everything just happens with this. The smart contract sits in a special public key address, while the your individual account sits its own address. And then it's really when I send you, if I have 1 ETH and I'm sending you a half ETH, I am, the chain is just deducting balances. It says Nate has 5 ETH. All right, he wants to send Ashlee 1, minus 1 for Nate, plus 1 for Ashlee. It is really just an account-based model.
So, just a question. How does Cardano explain how they intend on doing this? It doesn't seem... I mean, I'm not a super smart person, but to me it seems like maybe it might not be...
It's proven, I think, more difficult. I haven't followed along Cardano's technological path in the past 2 years or so. I do keep a small eye on it because if they figure it out,
that's a good point.
It's interesting because you're doing UTXOs, you're doing smart contracts with UTXOs, and that's interesting for Bitcoin.
Right. Because then, are you saying because then Bitcoin could potentially also do smart contracts?
Bitcoin can take lessons, like it does with everything. It can take lessons from what other places are doing and use what works. You know, it's like having a million different test nets. I got to smile, y'all, because, you know, we have our breakfast bourbon, and super producer Chantel just took a swig of the breakfast bourbon raw.
Oh, wow. It's actually so good.
Yeah, it does work. Special brew from tasty. New Orleans, imported here to Detroit by myself, legally.
She's like pushing the applause button.
Yes. Breakfast bourbon. Ask your local bartender about it.
Yep.
They won't know, but we'll make it the thing.
Yeah, but you let them know. How about that?
That's right. So yeah, the account model is a lot easier. Bitcoin can learn from all these models. We have things like that are in very, very super early development, like BitVM, that are trying to find ways that aren't the account model and don't use a blockchain at all to be able to do smart contracts.
Yeah, I keep writing that down that I want to talk about that, but
It's
other
a
exciting
fast,
things come up
really,
too.
really early. So
Yeah, that too.
But yeah, it could be interesting if it works out. So yeah, this is why Ethereum uses account models, but it's also why if people think Bitcoin has crappy privacy because you can track the UTXO set, because now we understand how UTXOs work, inputs
Right.
and outputs.
Yeah.
And that's all chain analysis, any blockchain investigator.
It's like very basic.
Yeah, well, it's basic in the routine, and then you just have to use a bunch of like correlation to figure out like, all right, well, like we just did, right? Is this an exchange address? Were they sending it to themselves, or did it look like they were sending it to somebody? Well, there's no change address. There's only a fee address. So either they had the exact amount, that's a weird number, 0.048376.
Right. It's not
Either they had
something
the exact
even.
amount in small UTXOs,
Yeah.
or they just sent their entire UTXO set to themselves
Right, to consolidate.
which means this is probably your address too. And that's how they do the entire analysis thing.
What's change address and fee address? I'm sorry if it's silly.
No, it's not silly at all. Let's look at one. Let's see if we can pull that up.
I feel like it's something really simple, but also like I just would like to know what you mean when you say that to me.
I'm just trying to find. All right. Well, here's a simple of a fee address, and again, this is probably an exchange. So we're seeing. Woo.
Yeah, that's a real big one.
Yeah, which is why it's probably somebody doing a bunch of consolidations or an exchange taking a bunch of individual inputs when you send Bitcoin
Yeah.
to the exchange.
Yeah.
Right? It gets a bunch of small UTXOs. And every now
Meaning
and
you're
then.
trying to purchase it?
Yeah, let's say you're trying to sell some Bitcoin. Right?
Okay.
And you don't know anybody in person to do it with the way you should be doing it, meeting in person, peer to peer.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't have that and you're
Yeah.
going to use an exchange, but you only want $50 worth,
Yeah.
right? $100 worth. Well, you have to send the Bitcoin to the exchange first. That's going to be a UTXO for the exchange. They're going to have a bunch of $50, $20, $100, $300 UTXOs.
So this is all people selling?
So this would be, well, the sources would be all the people who are selling or trading. Assuming this is an exchange.
Yeah.
I'm making a bunch of
Yeah.
assumptions
Yeah.
here. Assuming this is an exchange, this would be a bunch of people sending their Bitcoin to the exchange for whatever purpose. Now the exchange has a bunch of UTXOs from these.
Right.
They don't want that. That's
Yeah.
hard to manage. So after every now and then, they'll send all of these UTXOs that they collected, let's say, at the end of the day, just like you would batch a credit card if you work retail.
Yeah.
They're basically batching all of these and pushing them into one giant UTXO.
Oh, I never knew what I was doing when I was batching stuff. I was just like, okay, click batch. Here we go.
Yep, that's what you're doing. You're taking all the transactions and sending them to Visa or MasterCard for the day. You don't send them back. When you do the thing, they sort of trust you, right? With a MasterCard or Visa,
Yeah.
they're trusting the retailer. And then at the end of the day, they batch them, which says, here's all the transactions for the day.
Okay.
And then MasterCard looks at those, or Visa, or whoever.
Yeah.
So this is an example of a single output plus the fee. But then look at this. Let me see. Does it give me details
Probably
on the
going to
fee?
be pretty large, huh?
Well, it's going to be really small. Well, it's going to be a big fee. Yes, because all of
those
these
coming in.
all of these are coming in. There's like 100 something. What do you call them there? Inputs. So if we could find another block, those are in the future. Let's find one in the past with a single output. So this one was one they had a UTXO worth exactly what they need. Well, they had one UTXO, right? So their fee is going to be cheaper. So there's the output from the old wallet, and here's the new UTXO with a huge, well, they overpaid. This must be an ordinal or something. Yep, an inscription. So
is that why it has those 3 other little guys hanging out?
Yep, because you're going to have your output 1, which is probably going to be the SAT they're doing. Because here's their fee. You're going to pay a huge fee, and then you're going to inscribe into these little UTXO. I'm not the inscription. Yeah, we'd have to have the inscription. An inscription master come in and if start talking about these details.
If that's you, reach out to us.
Yeah, reach out.
We could use an inscription master.
But this is what that would look like. So that could look like for this, the fee would usually be smaller, but you would have the main address, you would have multiple outputs. And then again, if you're talking about like chain analysis or somebody coming back and looking at it, assuming this was a normal transaction and not an inscription, they would have to determine, all right, is this, we're trying to figure out who this is.
Right.
All right, we see they sent a fee and they sent 3 addresses. Is this somebody sending it to themselves? So these addresses should be tagged as part of this address tree? Or is this like, do we know this address? We might know this is Coinbase. So somebody sent this much to Coinbase and then 1 remaining fee went back. That's probably assigned to this. Right? And this is how they try to be a sleuth.
Yeah.
And again,
that's doing too much. They should just leave it alone.
Well, they should, but this is what happens when you have a public chain, right?
Yeah. What's that going on? Look at that guy.
Yeah, you have an output from here, an output from here. It's getting merged into this one output and this second output with a fee spent here. So this is more like a normal transaction. So I would assume like I have a $100 UTXO, a UTXO worth $100. You're charging me $90.
And that's
right?
why
but I only have a $85 and a $20 UTXO. So it takes the $80, $85 and the $20, combines them into one for a moment, sends $95 off to you, sends the change back off to me,
right,
and then pays the miner the fee.
Oh, look at that,
Right? So this is a strong indication. Again, a lot of assumptions, but this is a strong indication that somebody made a payment and this is the return address. So if I'm trying to figure out what UTXOs belong to who, I might, after looking a couple more steps in the future of this UTXO set and this one, like if I look at this and this is a brand new address, maybe I'll make the assumption that this wallet and these 2 wallets are tied together.
Right.
And once I know these 3 wallets are tied together, I can keep taking steps backwards to see how they all spend in their habits.
Yeah.
And then if I find one that's an exchange, right, if I find some input someplace that came from an exchange and we think it's illegal activity, some chain analysis or whatever, then I can contact the exchange. The government would contact the exchange. They would try to get them to say, who owns this one?
Yeah.
And this is why KYC is bad, because it's good for that if you're doing illegal stuff.
Yeah.
But it's bad because what if they just want to know who you are?
Yeah.
Right? Somebody's trying to do. And government isn't even the big one that you got to worry. It's the hackers. If the government can figure it out, so can the hackers.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, it seems to me, silly old me, that that could be something that somebody could easily just create a software to just figure that out and take note of those patterns.
Well, that's what they do. This is how all of the blockchain explorer sleuths basically do. They're not doing like we are, brunt forcing our way through a chain trying to figure it out.
Right.
They have scripts that read the chain, make all of these assumptions, correlations, and then output with
especially
the best.
With AI too.
No, AI
See
will
you later,
up that
privacy.
number. Yep. Yep.
Yikes.
So that's what basically a UTXO is. That's what you're talking about when you're talking about the fees. You're paying per UTXO. This is why you'll hear over the past couple years, especially the past year, UTXO management has been a big topic in Bitcoin because while we sit here and tell people to stack sats, right? what you should do, but when let's say you're going to Coinbase and you buy $10 worth of Bitcoin, and then you take it instantly and send it to your wallet, well, now you have a $10 UTXO, right?
Right.
The problem with that is, as more and more people use the chain, right, the blocks get more and more demand for them, so there's less room for smaller transactions, and the fee could be higher than what you're trying to buy. You want to buy something worth $100, and you're like, I got $25 transactions because I've been DCAing into Bitcoin with $5 per day, right?
Yeah.
But you've been sending them from Cash App to your wallet daily. Now you have a bunch of $5 UTXOs. What happens when the fee costs $5.30? You can't spend the UTXO. It costs more in fees than you have.
So when you're like stacking sats, could it be considered a decent idea, not financial advice, to like once a month or maybe once a year move those over to a wallet instead of every day? Or
Yeah, you definitely, if you're going to use an exchange anyway, right? Yes, you shouldn't be taking small amounts. You should be taking larger amounts. There's a lot of debate on what the right amount set for the near future is. A lot of people settle on someplace in the high 100,000 sats to about 1 million sats to protect you from the turning your dust. People might have heard the term dust. Yeah, like, oh, I only have some dust left. Dust is Bitcoin, Satoshis, that the fee to send them is more than what they're worth, so you can't do anything. That. They're locked.
Okay.
People use dust as spam. They might send you like a couple sats.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, where did I get these little sats from?
Yeah.
Well, it's because they have like links in them and stuff. It's just a spam attack.
Okay, that was making me think another thing. Is that kind of basically to end play to earn games then? Because all of those are just like little tiny sats that you're stacking.
Well, this comes into the scaling debate.
Oh boy.
How do you scale it? Because you can still do those, but this was what Lightning Network was supposed to solve. But even Lightning Network becomes a problem because how do you get into Lightning when you can't afford a UTXO? It's still when you open a Lightning channel, you have to have an on-chain transaction, right? So if most people only deal with $100 or less in transactions.
Right.
So, after a while, if it has like with these ordinals, with demand is high and the fees are super high, you can't get a $100 transaction in there. It might cost you $20 to get a $100 transaction.
Right.
Who's going to pay 20%?
Right.
So that's part of the scaling debate. How do we keep it, or do we even try to keep it so you can have consumer level spending on Bitcoin proper? If not, we're pushing it either to other layers, and then that means you're talking about less security possibly, or less decentralization.
Well, that sounds like the one time when I asked you about like, oh, what do you think Bitcoin would be good money? And then like, I forget, maybe we had somebody else on like, oh, that's not the point. Like, it's not supposed to be money. It's supposed to be a store of value.
Everything changes narrative. It is supposed to be money.
I'm like, what is it supposed to be?
I think it is supposed to be money, but it's not that. Does the spoon exist? It depends on what narrative you're chasing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in the camp of it's supposed to be all assets of money. I think that was the initial intention.
And
initial intentions don't mean, well, it has to be a store of value. It has to be a means of exchange, being the two most important pieces. And then you would have a unit of account. And then there's a bunch of little moneyness traits it should have too, right? Like easy to verify, things like that. I think Bitcoin's supposed to be all of those things, but I don't think any money, Bitcoin, virtual, physical, it has to go in an order. I think it has to start with, store of value. After store of value, then people will want to exchange it because they know it has value.
Right.
And once enough people are exchanging it, then they'll start to price things in it, and you'll have a unit account. Then you'll have the full money thing. And so it means we have time for scaling and stuff. We have time for some of these things, I think.
So this is where we circle back again to, we're just so early.
Yeah, you're early. We're late, but we're early.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I don't know what to say.
And, this is one of the things that I like about the AI conversations. AI has been floating around since like the 50s or 60s, right? Machine learning and AI. It just took off just over a year ago.
With the open.
On any kind of meaningful sense.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 60 years of development.
Yeah.
Right? Bitcoin's been around for 16 years, and it's the oldest crypto. So
yeah.
Whatever you're working on in this space,
yeah,
it is super early.
Yeah.
It's not as early as some people like to think it is.
Although we move faster these days, we have that on our side.
Mm-hmm.
Every day
we're getting older, and it just seems like things are going fast. One or the other.
We were talking about that earlier, about time flying with age.
Yep.
I don't know what they're talking about. I'm young still, so.
That's right. Time moves slow for me. This is all a 5-minute episode?
Yeah. Well, how are we gonna fill? Yeah, how are we gonna fill for like 50 more minutes?
Yep. All right. So you have a better understanding now what a UTXO is?
Yeah, I do have one more question, but do you want me to save it for a block note, or just ask it?
No, go for it.
So are UTXOs the reason why ETH went to a proof of stake?
No.
So they could do their smart contracts?
No, ETH never used UTXOs. ETH has always been an account model. It has nothing to do with the proof of stake, proof of work argument. It has to do with how transactions, how the money is accounted, how the accounting system works.
So technically speaking, Bitcoin could have been an account model.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that would have been worse. But that's going to be a higher level discussion.
So what do I write down for that?
Yeah, we'll do the what are UTXOs on a more technical thing, and then maybe that would make more sense.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the Ethereum went to account model specifically because smart contracts are way easier to do with an account model than they are a UTXO model. And Cardano was like, let's prove that thesis.
Yeah.
So if you're a Cardano fan in ADA, whatever they call themselves,
I don't know either.
They don't come at me.
Come at 'em.
Dog, it's like we'll still see, but it hasn't worked yet, and it's been in research. And they launched their smart contract platform last bull market. Actually, Cardano did.
So they were doing something different, and then they were like, "Oh, we see you, ETH. We're going to prove you wrong."
Yeah, well, Cardano started as a, we won't make this a Cardano episode, but Cardano started, Charles Hopkins, who founded Cardano, was one of the original ETH people, and then broke off, did his own thing. Go read Laura Shin's book on Ethereum history to get all those stories. But he stuck with the UTXO model. They made it research-based. They spent a few years researching how to do it. Then in early 2021, they actually launched the smart contract platform. And man, it was pretty tragic. It ended up doing 1 or 2 transactions per second, and it crashed the network. Or maybe it didn't crash it. That could be strong. Don't come at me, but
come at him.
But it didn't work well.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. We'll say that.
And that's when I stopped sort of following it. I'm waiting to hear. I figure if it hits my ears that there's something significant happening over there, then I'll go check it out, because that would be relevant.
And he'll hop on the bandwagon.
Well, full disclosure, never investment advice, because I have exited all my Cardano positions, but I had some Cardano in my early days.
Pretty sure we all did.
So it was all right for me on that.
I may or may not have a teeny tiny bit as well.
Yeah. So, but usability. Although there's things people can learn from it. Again, this isn't a Cardano, so we'll end the thing. But
I would just get Ethereum, a little bit of everything.
I've
you never know.
I've turned very bearish on Ethereum overall, not because of
bearish.
Oh yeah.
Like hibernating bear.
Yeah, going to zero bear type, but no time soon. I don't think it's going to happen soon.
Oh, now they're coming for you. Now they're coming for you.
Because
you're
they can
done.
answer my questions and whatnot. But that comes just with the not smart contracts, because like I like Cosmos, I like a couple other chains.
Yeah.
I think they're interested in what they're doing. I think Ethereum has gotten too technically complex for its own good. And where they're at now with this liquid staking.
Yeah.
Well, this is something Cardano did early on. They've been proof of stake since the beginning, and you've never had to lock the tokens, right? Which at first was like, well, that's the whole point of staking, locking tokens. But now, since every proof of stake network doesn't make you, they make you lock, but it's like,
Not really.
to me, it's a word game.
Yeah. They lock it, but you can still use it.
Happy to bring on anybody to debate the concept, because I'm open to being corrected on it. But yeah, it's like, what's the point of locking? I'm telling you, the security of my network is to lock up this thing.
Right.
But here's the receipt, and you can treat the receipt just like the main thing and go do whatever you want to with it.
Like a refinance of a house, kind of like.
Yeah, it's just derivatives.
Yeah.
And we see how derivatives turn out.
Now we're way off on a segue or a tangent.
UTXOs in the house. There you go. So if that's it,
that's it.
Where can I'll post some information about UTXOs on the website. Where can they find us to go get at me about my Cardano and ETH comments?
We are on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call it. We are at the Blockument.
Exter. Somebody started calling it Exter.
For real? Oh no. Okay. Twixter.
I guess if you pronounce X the right way, it'd be Zitter.
Oh my goodness, that's not cute. Okay, so we are at the Blockument with a K. You can see it on your screen now, folks. And let's see, where else are we? Facebook and TikTok and YouTube. We're on the tube.
We're on the tube.
Yep, and also the blockument.com. And there you can see all of our past episodes, and you can see where to listen to us. We're everywhere where you can find podcasts.
There it is. So until then, come for the UTXOs.
Stay for the revolution.
Peace.
Peace.